Oh, hello there. Yes, well, a little bit of a trigger warning today. I'm going to be talking generically about people on the right, okay? And if you are one of those people, you might just want to not bother with this, because although I've got this kind of flag thing behind me, I'm actually quite left-wing. I'm going to say things that you don't agree with, and if you're going to persevere with it, you can put comments down below saying you don't agree with me. But if you do, please just say why you don't agree with me, because I get bored, really, to be quite honest, trying to say to people about clarifying what I mean and then just saying, well, you're wrong. Try and do a little, work harder, is what I'm saying. Anyway, yes, final comment I thought I'd do about the D-Day stuff, because I've been doing that for a couple of days now. There was a piece which I didn't get to mention yesterday or the day before in The Telegraph by someone called Robert Taylor, who sounds like an archetypal 1950s British actor. But anyway, he manages in this piece to link everything that he thinks, in other words, that the Conservative Party thinks, is wrong with the UK, at the feet of certainly left-wingers, obviously, but also suggesting somehow that my father and other people's grandfathers, or indeed great-grandfathers, were fighting in Normandy for some very, very precise modern issues. So, yeah, he's got this. This is no longer the Britain the D-Day generation fought to save. No, time's moved on. Okay, just want to get that one particularly out there. It isn't 1945 anymore. If it was, we'd have a whole bunch of left-wingers voting Winston Churchill out, because that's what happened in 1945. That's an inconvenient fact of history. We'd also be on the cusp of a completely new era, where people felt that the future was something that would belong to them. Not in a kind of Nazi blonde boy singing it way. No, but in a kind of collective working class way. Yeah. Anyway, yes, this has become a country where people applaud when their liberties are taken away from them. What would they even recognise us? Yes, they would, actually, because I'm quite like my father. But leaving that aside, yes, they would, in lots and lots of different ways. But that isn't what you mean, Bobby, is it? So let's just go on to one particular bit that he's going on about. The most basic freedom of all, the foundation of all others, is freedom of speech. Yet even that, most precious of liberties, is threatened. If you don't hold the right views, you have no right to express it, okay? And if you express it anyway, stand by to be abused, to have your livelihood undermined, and to have many of those who you thought of as friends denounce you. Yes, just ask Graham Linehan, Rosie Duffield, Kathleen Stock and countless others. How ironic that social media, thought of as a means of giving a voice to all, has too often abused and silenced. Yes, indeed. Isn't that dreadful, those three people that were completely cancelled and you've never heard of them again? Yes, indeed. I would have thought personally that one of the marks of a healthy democracy is that people do disagree. But apparently you shouldn't disagree, at least on things that Robert Taylor would find distasteful. Okay, that's the important thing about that, because what he doesn't want you, he wants you to be allowed to think the wrong things, but you mustn't think things that he doesn't think. Okay, I hope we've made that really clear. And on the back of that, okay, we do get our usual sort of right-wing commentators, and there has been a decided shift in the last few weeks in a lot of ways, in that the language that they are using, because we all know as lefties that language is important. I mean, Robert has said the same thing, isn't it? It's important. Words are important because they can hurt. But we have had a definite shift, and I just want to sort of concentrate on a couple of our glorious thought leaders, if I can put it that way. For example, we've got Tommy Robinson, who comes out with this one. Leave the kids alone, you weird... I don't know what that word is. Anyway, it begins with C. Yeah, this all has to stop. This is one of those points people are upset. They're polluting the minds of the next generation with their toxic, poisonous ideologies. Yes, and I think what he's pointing to there are some multicoloured things on the side of the children's A&E. Now, you may notice the use of this language, okay? Now, we know that Tommy, basically, although he isn't keen on Muslims and their attitudes to things, he's also not keen on a whole variety of things that Muslims would agree with him. But he can't actually mention that because it'll hit the supporter base and the funding. But think about the language that's being used here. This is one of the points people are upset. People. What people? Well, people like Tommy. And they're the people that matter, right? Okay? Because there are other people who don't matter. Them. They're polluting the minds of the next generation with their ideas. Yes, them. Those people, which is always an intriguing one in my mind, the way that we suddenly start carving people up into us and them. Quite important in Tommy's world, obviously. As well, yesterday I was thinking of James Esses, who has been doing a very usual thing at the moment, whereby he spends his day, because he's unemployed, isn't he? Anyway, he spends his day looking at things on the internet and deciding if he's going to be upset about them. And his latest one is something in the Tesco magazine, of all places. Okay, so we get this right. Dear Tesco, why are you shoving ideology down customers' throats in your June recipe magazine? Right, okay, don't know. Is there a recipe for ideology stew? I don't know, apparently not. I'm she, they person, so I identify as being a woman, but often not. He's quoting here. I talk about my queerness openly as a chef. Trans rights are being attacked. Shake off the oppression. Yeah, where you've got this person who was interviewed and they gave their opinions, which James doesn't like, okay? But you might say, okay then, James, you're allowed not to like that, and you're given a platform to do so, aren't you? But later he actually moved on to this. Further to this, I have been contacted by a Tesco customer who, when she complained about this ideological symbolism in her store, was told, if you don't like it, don't bother coming in again. Do you really have such disdain for your customers, Tesco? Yes, indeed, you see, and they've got those kind of pride things, because James has now moved on generically to pride things. He's moved on from trans because the world is also moving on to generically having a go at gay people. Effectively, that's it. But you'll notice here that there are Tesco customers and gay people. All right? Notice the differences that we have here. And what is James really complaining about here? Well, he's complaining about any form of visibility to things that he doesn't like. Now, imagine, right, okay, if you went back to the 1940s and you said that in the future there were going to be all these people who basically were going to kick up a stink if the world wasn't perfect enough for them, and they were going to sideline whole groups of people. I wonder what word would be used, let's say, in the late 1930s or early 1940s to describe a person like that. Yes, I think we can think it might end with ist, mightn't it? Yes, indeed. But so much of this stuff online now is becoming very, very intertwined with the right wing. And by that I mean the extreme, the hard right wing. There's been a lot online about people noticing the crossover. Posey Parker's an easy target around this, but J.K. Rowling has been doing it for a long period of time in terms of her support for some very, very dodgy people who have very, very dodgy friends. So, yeah, here we get, like, for example, Graham Linehan, okay? He's having a go at Keighley Cougars, who are a rugby club, all right? So, right, it's just right. What Graham is saying is, look at the way these blokes talk to a lesbian icon. Okay, so Keighley Cougars are replying. Graham doesn't know if they're blokes. Okay, for a start, it could be a woman writing this, but it sounds better if it's a bloke, right? Stick to tennis. I mean, this is aimed at Martina Navratilova, right? Stick to tennis and let us stick with rugby and the things we're building at Cougars, Martina. Oh, actually, you've been retired for quite some time now. Just enjoy life and let others be and live their lives. Now, I personally, obviously, because, you know, I'm biased, think that that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say. If you have a go at a group of people simply because they have colours on their shirts that you don't agree with, that makes you a really petty-minded small person, whether you're a lesbian or not. Because lesbians, like gay people, like trans people, can be small and petty-minded. In fact, a lot of them are. But that's kind of the nature of individual people. Right? But what Graham does, you notice here at the bottom, is here's how to complain about the homophobia currently in charge of Cougar Mania Twitter account, keithleycougars.uk/contacts. Yes, you see, he's encouraging all those people that that think that Graham's views about certain people not being allowed to exist in real terms is perfectly valid, and therefore he's pointing them to have a go at somebody simply because they themselves are reacting to a very famous TERF having a go at them. And why is it this stuff about Cleatley Cougars? Well, because it's India Willoughby and the club that she is associated with, and that's the reason why Graham doesn't like it. So he's decided to mobilise his little friends to make sure that somebody there, probably not a bloke actually, Graham, has a bit of a miserable time having to deal with it. Yeah. Anyway, obviously, if you're a lesbian, then whatever you have to say must be perfectly reasonable. But a lot of this stuff, as I say, is spilling out, and I'm going to link this to something else that I noticed the last couple of days. We've had stories in, I think it was the Telegraph, about the Green Party candidates being accused of anti-Semitism. Right, okay? Because one of the things that the kind of international, globalist, one might say, right wing do is they learn from each other. They learn what works. And because the anti-Semitic slurs worked against Labour, they're now being applied to anyone, basically, that they don't like. And there was this piece: Green Party candidates shared anti-Semitic slurs and conspiracy theories. In inverted commas, you notice. Party officials examine dossier of offensive material as final candidate list is being decided. Yes. Now, loads of people on the right have been arguing that Hope Not Hate, pointing out that some Reform candidates are basically borderline not very nice people, is dreadful and against democracy. But here we have some people, and if you read the article itself, it's a bit hard to pin anti-Semitism on it. It's merely not particularly supportive of Israel, which of course, you know, from the Luke Akehurst school of the world, is indeed where we're at the moment, yeah? You either support indiscriminate bombing of children or you're a bad person. Yes, but that's where we're going to go with this stuff, okay? But you will notice the language, this language which seeks to carve out different groups of people. You have people who are good, honest, nice, upstanding and decent, and then you have others. And the others, obviously, are the problems, because, let's face it, those people that stormed the beaches, Gold, Juno, Omaha et al., were doing it so that petty-minded little bigots could dictate to the rest of the people, weren't they? I'm not too sure about that. Anyway, please do disagree with me in the comments. I know at least one or two of you will. Do have a lovely, lovely Saturday. Yeah, enjoy the weather. It's going to be, sunny. Yeah, it'd be nice, wouldn't it?